Hello and welcome to Thursday Night Talk. This is a show where we discuss the week in Humboldt, the local issues, and the local personalities with some local personalities. I'm Talvi Fried, and I'll be your local host for the next hour. Some of our listeners may be aware of the Sister City movement, which is a relationship that is a form of legal or social agreement between two geographically and politically distinct localities for the and commercial ties. Such an agreement has recently been proposed by the Redwood Peace and Justice League between the city of Arcata and Gaza City. And naturally, not without some controversy. Arcata City Council is split on the merits of this proposal, with Mayor Meredith Matthews, council members Alex Stillman, and Stacey Atkins Salazar against it. Invitations were sent out, though they also have been quoted in several papers already with their views. It would be nice if they were available to come on and talk about this. No, well, they didn't. So what does this all mean? Does it have a chance of becoming a reality? And what benefits would such an arrangement bring to the two cities? That's a real question. Joining a very, very, really important question. Joining us to sort this all out are our two sister city supporters. Dan Shaheen, Arcata community member and author of the ceasefire resolution that was passed earlier this year by the city of Arcata and supporter of the Redwood Peace and Justice Coalition, and Sean Leon, co-founder and active member of the Redwood Peace and Justice Coalition. Welcome to you both.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for being here. If anybody has questions for our guests, please text them to 707 498 4146. Again, text them to 707 498 4146. We'll be looking out for that. So let's get into the factor of what a sister city is before we get into this particular sister city and what meaning is behind that. Would anyone like to explain the sister city aspect?
Sean,
Sure. So, I mean, there's a long history of sister cities, and it goes back over 100 years. I think it was 1914. There was the sort of inauguration of this idea of municipalism, as it was called, and still is. And the idea being that links between cities hold a special significance for diplomatic relations. It's obviously not diplomatic relations between nations, but between cities. And fast forward to World War II, it also became very significant during the Cold War, and this idea that despite the differences of our nations between particularly like the US and the Soviet Union, there are so many commonalities that we share across, at that time, the Iron Curtain. And obviously, there's also been a movement more recently, like in the 80s, it was a massive thing to connect with Nicaragua, for example. Here in the States, many cities did that, including our city here, Arcata, California, paired with Camoapa, Nicaragua.
Did the tie to Camoapa, Nicaragua have with Arcata? Like, what were the effects on both cities when that happened? Because it happened in 1986 when Nicaragua, amongst many other areas in that region of the world, were in political turmoil. Though from what I've read, it's not supposed to be about any political happening when they create these sister cities. Though the fact that there was political turmoil, what was the effect it had, and how was the relationship between Arcata and Camoapa? And do they still have a relation?
Absolutely. The Sister City project is ongoing. There's a yearly I-Block party. I think it's the first weekend in September or so. There's right next to Los Bagels in Arcata. that whole block is shut off, and they have all sorts of events, different things going on, music playing. They have different ways of raising money during that, and those that's, as I understand, the primary way that funds are generated for the Sister City project. Now, over the decades, the Sister City has done a lot of projects. Now, I should say I'm not an expert by any means on the Camuapa, Nicaragua Sister City. Um, I'm um, learning about it right now, and I'm hoping to learn more about it. But nonetheless, it did form in the 80s during the Civil War in Nicaragua. So, as you said, that there and were very serious differences between our country, the national government, and the national government in Nicaragua. Um, the idea being with the sister city is that peace is, we sort of like we need to take this into our own hands. We need to form links that humanize between our countries, so that here in Arcata and there in Camuapa, we can begin to establish the context for peace. And through that Sister City, lots of different projects have happened. I think this is one of the great things about the Sister City model, is that it allows for a lot of creative talent to come in and do different things. I know that they've given lots of education grants to kids down there to learn, become more productive members of society in different ways. They've uh, provided money for building, I believe, drinking, like freshwater drinking wells. So increasing the living standards down there in a variety of different ways. And also improving Arcata as well. So they've brought musicians and artists, bands up here, and other types of people have come up here from there, providing cultural exchange between the two different cities.
It really helps to sort of put a face or make tangible a community's desire to help another community. We definitely could. There's other ways, right? Right now, any way that puts attention and focus on the absolute ongoing daily human tragedy that is unfolding in Gaza needs to be at the forefront of our message and our minds here, because a sister city, it would be a great scenario and much needed, even if there was a complete ceasefire and if there were peace. That sort of a relationship would still be needed for the horrible conditions that existed in Gaza before this conflict even began. So a program like this would have been of immense help then. Right now, when aid is being blockaded in defiance of international law, Joe Biden put a 30-day period and set firm benchmarks on how much aid needed to get into Gaza. None of those were met, and no red lines were enforced. There was no consequence to Israel for blatantly violating international law. So this is, I mean, as much as a sister city is important, we have got people dying each and every day due to humanitarian crimes being committed in the open with U.S. tax dollars funding it. That has to stop.
I don't think anybody doubts that war is a horrible, ugly thing. And one of the factors of cities that I'm noticing again and again is that it is a non-political, it's supposed to be a non-political situation in which two cities enrich each other. And so despite the sadness of war, I would like to ask the question, because Eureka has a sister city with Kamisu, Japan, Nelson, New Zealand, for a variety of reasons. I believe the New Zealand is due to the kind of creation of the movie scene around Humboldt County. There was a small filming community in New Zealand. That was kind of one of the cultural exchanges that was happening. Kamisa, Japan, for many, many reasons there as well. For Nicaragua, it wasn't because they were at war. It was because, yes, they were having a civil war. That is a war amongst themselves, which is, again, war is atrocious. Why Gaza? And not another city that is also going through horrendous things. Because if we want to highlight a specific human atrocities, there are many examples happening around the world right now.
Yeah, but how many of
And
them are
I
directly funded by US tax dollars to our biggest
probably
recipient
all of them.
of military aid, going directly to so far the slaughter of over 40,000 people, the vast majority of which are women and children?
War is a very sad and ugly
This
thing.
is
No one
not a
denies
war.
that.
This is not a war. This is a slaughter.
Yeah, I mean, I greatly value
Okay, so is the
our
reason that this was
local Palestinian here, Dan Shaheen, being able to, speak in favor of what we're up to with the sister city. I mean, I guess to your point about it being nonpartisan, I think it is nonpartisan. It's also not for profit. That doesn't mean that it's not political. I mean, it's just that we're not taking a side. Similarly with local politics, I mean, domestic politics. We're not endorsing a particular candidate, based on political grounds. We're not saying that the Democrats deserve a pass when the incoming administration is appointing all these different administrative people in the cabinet that are extremely pro-Israel, very one-sided, in their approach to handling the conflict that's on. It's not exactly a one-sided. I mean,
Well, look,
it's not an even playing ground, with these two forces, but the U.S. support is very much on the Israeli side, and so
it's not even about the Israeli or the Palestinian side. It's about adherence to international law. That's all it is about, right? That's because to even get aid to a sister city, aid has to be able to flow into the city, and it is being prevented on a daily basis in violation of international humanitarian law. That's why if the sister city is to succeed and any aid is to flow there, that problem needs to be addressed.
absolutely,
It's not political,
absolutely,
humanitarian.
do you think that Arcata has the power to influence what is happening in Gaza right now?
I
Do they
think
have the power to change that and somehow break through the forces that are happening and somehow get aid over there?
I think we have the responsibility to raise our voice and let it be known that our tax dollars should not be spent killing innocent women and children. In blatant violation, not just of international law, but also US law. The Leahy laws expressly forbid military aid going to countries that are committing humanitarian crimes. This is on the books, and the Biden-Harris administration chose to completely ignore it, and I don't expect the Trump administration to do anything differently.
Yeah, I mean, on that point too, whether we as Arcata City, can we do anything? Certainly we can. I mean, that's exactly what we're talking about is, with this sister city, not just creating cultural links where we're humanizing Palestinians, but also providing urgently needed medical and humanitarian aid. That does make a material difference. This is the point that our campaign is raising, is that, while a lot of people are looking at their social media feeds and they're, feeling really disempowered empowered, and people are many overwhelmed with the incoming administration, even thinking that it might get worse. We're saying we can actually take action, not just argue with local people that we disagree with, but we can actually take action that makes the difference. And is it going to be enough of a difference? Is it going to be make the difference? Well, that's I wouldn't be so bold as to suggest that that's the case, but the difference is going to come from a lot of people doing different things to make that difference. And so it allows us to be part of that solution. Certainly, as Dan has suggested, there's actually, the international framework for the laws of genocide. This is why our government probably doesn't want to label it as genocide, because the international laws actually require that that nation states do something to stop the genocide if they have any influence to stop it, and which the U.S. certainly would. So if they labeled it as genocide or acknowledged it as genocide, they would be legally required under international law to take immediate action. And also on a city level, there's an argument to be made that there's an obligation to do something. Uh, Los Angeles Mayor Tom Bradley, he very eloquently, made the argument in 1985 in a speech to the National League of Cities Congress. He said, "I submit to you that cities have the right, indeed, even the obligation, to be part of the great national debate on weighty issues, from foreign trade policies to opposing South Africa apartheid, from immigration policies to the proliferation of nuclear weapons." So this is all in the context of the belief that cities actually, do play a role and have played a role even before the League of Nations, the precursor to the United Nations. This municipal movement started before the League of Nations. They do play a role in creating the context for peace.
Yeah, Arcata doesn't have any really power to do much of anything to change things in that situation, but who really has no power are the people there in Gaza. They have absolutely no power and absolutely no help from anyone. So anything that humanizes a people that have been deeply and profoundly dehumanized for generations is helpful to the situation. Anything that puts a focus on thinking about people's day-to-day lives in a place where they have no rights and have no ability to feed themselves or get medicine or defend themselves in any way, and where they are constantly being labeled and targeted as terrorists, regardless of their political affiliations. So it is time to forget about politics to some degree and look at the humanitarian tragedy that has been unfolding there.
So we're going to take a quick break. Again, if you have any questions for our guests, please text them to 707-498-4146, 707-498-4146. We'll be right back on Thursday Night Talk. Welcome back to Thursday Night Talk. We are discussing the sister city proposal that was created or is being proposed by the Redwood Peace and Justice Coalition. I've got Dan Shaheen and Sean Leon here, and we did just speak of the This is a very heavy topic. There are a lot of human atrocities going on. I wanted to fact check some things because I love fact checking, and just for the sake of things, because again, there are several wars, very heavy wars. About 60 or geez, where was it? 80,000 Ukrainian soldiers alone, not counting people and citizens of Ukraine, have been killed since February of 2022 when Russia invaded. Whereas for 44,000 to 45,000 Palestinians have been killed since Israel attacked, which is a lot of people.
How
And
much
it's
aid has been
absolutely awful.
prevented from flowing into the Ukraine?
A lot of Ukraine did escape. They have that.
How much aid has been
If
actively
geopolitically, just
prevented from flowing in by Russia or any other force, have stopped aid shipments at the border of Ukraine? The answer is none, right? And the answer is every single day that's happening in Gaza. So that's the difference. I just wanted to fact check your fact check.
okay. Okay. There's still a lot of people dying on the planet, and we are talking about becoming a sister city, specifically with Gaza. And there are a lot on the city council who do not want this to happen. And I'm trying to think of, because they are not here, and because a lot of people who don't agree that Gaza and Arcata would make good sister cities for whatever reason, I'm trying to think of what they would say and why they would say that. And I'm thinking there's a lot of wars out there. There's a lot of people dying around the world. There's a lot of cities that can be a sister city that are going through tremendous trouble that we can also help, that can help us culturally. And so I'm hearing you on the, yes, we should bring to light the atrocities that are happening, the genocide, and the disturbing things that are occurring every minute out there. If anybody ever looks up any videos, it's horrifying. It is absolutely horrifying. There is absolutely no doubt about that. That we're discussing the sister city factor.
I haven't
And
heard any proposals for any other sister cities. I would definitely support a sister city anywhere experiencing humanitarian problems, anywhere close to the level that they're happening in Gaza.
So that was another question that I had, which is if somebody decided to propose a sister city that was in Israel, I'm already guessing that the answer would be no, you would not support that. But what if we did that?
Why would you guess that? Why are you giving our
I don't
answer?
know. No, perhaps that's a full assumption. So, perhaps
I think
to
that
promote
is a
peace
hasty
and try to
assumption.
create ways.
I think it is a hasty assumption because, I mean, does the West Bank count as Israel? Because if it does, as it seems to, then I would definitely support. There's multiple places in the West Bank, including the village that my family has spent the last 500 years living in, that I would definitely want to be a sister city with Arcata. As for Israeli cities, I have not seen a proposal for that, but I would be willing to consider it on the merits of it. Especially if we were to compare the amount of need in an Israeli city compared to, say, what's going on in Gaza, we could maybe quantify that and make a decision on which one really needs a sister city more. I would be in favor of that discussion.
And can I actually suggest that, it doesn't have to be, do we support the Israelis by having a sister city in Israel, or do we support the Palestinians by having a sister city in Palestine? The fact is that there is a history to the, Israel, Palestine, however you want to define it. The peace in this part of the world is best for both parties. I mean, it's not that by forming a sister city in Palestine, we're against the Israelis. That's absolutely incorrect.
Not at all. Not at all.
In fact, the Israeli citizens would be the biggest beneficiaries of peace in that region. And I think that's also shown in various different polls where many people in Israel disapprove of Netanyahu's handling of the war. And also though, I think that getting back to your point about the city council members here in Arcata who are not for the sister city. Now, it's true that three of the council members out of the five are not for the sister city, but two of them are simply saying that they're not for it at this time, and they're willing to hear more about it and learn more about it. And so, it's Meredith that's the only one who said very, clearly, I'm not for this. I don't like this idea. But, Stacy Atkins Salazar and Alex Stillman, were united sort of in saying, I'm not for it at this time. Maybe, if I can see that it's not going to divide the community. Now, this is actually an issue that comes up with these sister city projects around the world. People saying, "Oh, it's going to divide us," and I actually found this one letter by the vice president of the Sister Cities International, and they're one of the biggest sister cities in the U.S. at least, sister city organizations. And Boulder, Colorado is part of that. We've actually made a point to say, look, Boulder, Colorado is a great example, particularly because Boulder, Colorado has provided ambulance to Nablus, and they're building a medical clinic right now. And so, this is very admirable that they can do this. And if they can do it, then so can we. So when that Sister City was being set up, the vice president of the Sister Cities International, which Boulder is now part of, he wrote a letter to the Boulder City Council, and he addressed this very issue of, whether it's divisive. And he said, and I'll quote him, some have suggested that the sister city would be let's see, my apologies here, but I'll just find the spot. But
if you want to look for a second, and let me just say this, I can't speak for the city council except for what they said to me, and I've heard them say on the record. I heard differently. Alex Stillman wrote to me that said she could not support a sister city in a city that was controlled by terrorists. That was the answer that I was given, right, directly, okay. Which I appreciate the candor in such a statement, even though I feel it might be misguided. Now, what I do know is that all 5 members of the city council signed the ceasefire resolution. One of the lines in the ceasefire resolution was that, of course, Arcata supports the upholding of international law. That is all I am saying we need to focus on. If there's any hope of a sister city happening, it cannot happen until international law is respected to allow aid into Gaza. So just based on their signing that statement, which had a lot of other statements on it, but in particular that we, Arcata, as a community and as a city council and as a city, support the upholding of international law. And so based on that statement alone, I thought it was going to be a little bit easier to get support for a sister city project.
So what proposal? So what does that proposal exactly look like? What would the implementation be? And let's start there. Like how would this even become a thing? Like, would there be a council created? What would the implementation of Arcata and Gaza becoming a sister city even look like?
Well, nothing could be done without the city council at the very least allowing it to be put on the agenda to be voted on, and then we could go through a democratic process and we could hear from citizens who are for and against it, and we could really discuss it and have a thorough understanding of the issue at hand, and then make an informed decision as an electorate, right? That's what we're that's the starting point. I'll let Sean speak to more of the details on the specifics of how something would be administrated once we got past that very easily surmountable hurdle of putting it on the city council agenda.
Okay, so it's on the agenda. Then that goes to a vote, correct?
Mhm.
And then it's either a yes or no. So yes, it happens. What happens now?
Right. So if it's voted down, then it's a lot harder to bring back later. But so there is an interest in building consensus around the issue and showing that there's broad-based support. We believe there is broad-based support for this. You know, our organization was one of the main lobbying forces that brought forward the ceasefire resolution at the beginning of this year. And also very much thanks to Dan's work in his negotiations with different members and key stakeholders. Uh, so, you know, we have already presented the city council with 1,500 signatures for that ceasefire. You know, we worked in building coalition at that time, and you know we have those resources now going into building the sister city, which but so that's our desire, is to you know somewhat follow on our previous work of building coalition and showing that there's broad-based support. And certainly, you know, many of the people who voted, who signed the petition for ceasefire resolution, similarly are going to want a sister city in Palestine, I believe. And so the sister city could be voted on, you know, immediately by the city council, and then the city council could, and our group could work to set up the sister city in a variety of different ways. It doesn't have to be one particular linear path, but generally the sister cities are set up once there's legitimacy for it, and there's different council members or the mayor maybe being in communication with people on the ground in Palestine to set this up. So that's generally how it's done. And then when both people in both areas give legitimacy to it, and maybe it joins with an organization like Sister Cities International or other ones that are part of the international municipal movement globally, then it becomes an official sister city. Now, you know, how do we get over these hurdles of people being concerned about it being divisive? Well, communication. You know, we talk about it, and you know, getting back to this letter from the vice president of Sister Cities International. I mean, I'd just go through some of the points that he makes. He says, you know, the Sister Cities model is founded on very powerful precepts, that peace is built through mutual respect, open communication, cooperation, and long-term engagement, one individual, one community at a time. And that communication is necessary because of our differences, not in spite of them. He says the idea that issues between Jews and Muslims are insurmountable, or that changes must come before engagement rather than as a result of it, is both cynical and counterproductive. Concerns that Nablus not share the same progressive values as Boulder might have some validity, but he said that he would emphasize that a sister city relationship is not and has never been an explicit or implicit endorsement of the laws, values, ethics, or cultural practices of another community. In fact, in Sister Cities International 60-year history, its great achievements are usually with countries with whom we have had the greatest differences, from Germany and Japan to China and the Soviet Union to Iraq and Afghanistan. He goes on to bring up the LGBT issue. I mean, this is something that some critics have said. Oh, but LGBT rights are not as widely as accepted in Palestine, as the argument goes. But he said, "I will not deny the valid issues raised by some related to mistreatment of LGBT residents and women in Nablus. But if citizens in Boulder are truly concerned about the welfare of those people, they should understand that cultural changes come about by engagement, not by isolating. To tell women or the LGBT community in Nablus, or in our case in Gaza, that you cannot form a relationship with the city because they are being mistreated would seem only to add insult to injury." And he says that the sister city could continue with its activities, some suggest, without formally establishing a sister city relationship. And this is actually one thing that Alex Stillman said is, why don't you just do your fundraising, do your own thing, and not worry about doing a formalized sister city? Well, this vice president of Sister Cities International, Adam Kaplan, he says, "I believe this would be a grave mistake, and it would actually run counter to the interests of those that propose such a scenario." He says that this Sister Cities movement, it actually, and the model, it actually creates, it brings Arcata, it would bring Arcata into a community of other sister cities that would actually, and joining with a group like Sister Cities International would actually make it more accountable.
Is Arcata not part of the sister city group? Because we do have a sister city, the Nicaraguan sister city. So would we not already be part of the Sister Cities Coalition?
Yeah, I would imagine
I
that
say we,
probably.
Arcata.
I don't know for certain that, but I would imagine probably that Camwapa is part of Sister Cities International. I don't think though that gives us immediate accreditation as a sister city with Gaza through them. I mean, we have to build the coalition and establish that. But
in the past, one of the first things, once it was passed that yes, we want to create this sister city, at least this is how Eureka did it, is the mayor contacted the mayor of that area.
Right. That's what I was going to say.
I want to get back to
no matter what, if this is to succeed, we need a mayor that supports it, right? Because that's typically like the point of contact is mayor to mayor. If you look at what the mayor of Arcata at the time of the Nicaraguan sister city did, she was actively involved in the project, passionately dedicated to it to help people. Right now, we don't have, our mayor is not that, but that doesn't mean she can't be persuaded. She was persuaded on
every year.
She was persuaded on the ceasefire issue, which she was dead set against, and we got a unanimous support of that from the entire council. And I believe implicit in that was Arcata's support for international law. And so no matter what happens, even if the initial phases of this is this is just one part of a campaign that includes boycotting goods from Israel and putting economic pressure to try and make change in that area. Because let's be clear, like the feel-good vibes of a sister city are important, right? They would be a good thing, but until we can stop the death and starvation and disease that is running rampant, a sister city can't do that much good. So part of this is affirming that the city of Arcata and the people of Arcata are very much behind support for those victims in Gaza and in Palestine, wider Palestine, as we're about to see under the new administration.
So I do want to continue this. We did get somebody asking a question, which we'll cover right after the break. I wish we had time to go further into the what does it mean to be a sister city with a culture that often is anti-LGBT and does not have the same rights for women that California does.
We should talk about that for sure. I think we should.
Okay. When we come back, we'll discuss things. Be right back. Thursday Night Talk. Welcome back to Thursday Night Talk. I'm your local host, Talvi Fried. I am here with Dan Shaheen, Arcata community member and author of the ceasefire resolution that was passed earlier this year by the city of Arcata, and Sean Leon, co-founder and active member of the Redwood Peace and Justice Coalition. I don't know if we have time to get back to that, but if we do, we will, because I do love when people are being interactive with us. So a listener asked the question of the two of you, what sort of immediate for those just tuning in, we are talking about the potential of a sister city, a proposal to become a sister city with Gaza, Arcata Gaza sister city proposal happening here, and the discussion of it. So here is the question that was received. There's two parts. So what sort of immediate benefits would Gaza City receive upon the passage of a sister city agreement? And there be any tangible benefits beyond a virtue signaling statement? So would Arcata be virtue signaling, I believe is what they're asking, and what sort of benefits would Gaza City receive upon passage of a sister city agreement?
Yeah, sure. Well, virtually none, because of the blockade of aid into Gaza in violation of international law. So that's the answer is that. What will it provide beyond a feel-good feeling? Couple things. It'll signal the people of Arcata that the city council is true to our values as a community. And it would also give a broader signal, if this is picked up in the news as the ceasefire resolution was. It would show a signal that there is grassroots support for helping people in Gaza. And that's the main goal and message of this program. Even if we didn't adopt a sister city model per se, we have to do whatever we can to signal our support for international law.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I'm glad that we got this comment about virtue signaling, because, I think it's kind of laughable in a way to, it's like we're actually talking about providing material humanitarian aid. And to suggest that that's virtue signaling is funny. I mean, it's like, okay, so what is not virtue signaling by that? Are you saying that because it has a propaganda value, that therefore it's virtue signaling? I mean, at some point there has to be a distinction between action and words. What is action and what is words? We're talking about action. And we're talking about it because we need to, communication is a prerequisite in order for collective action. You can go out and you can do certain things without communicating, but if you're trying to take collective action, you need to communicate first. Maybe there is a propaganda value in committing a deed, but primarily what we're doing is providing a service in providing medical aid and humanitarian aid. And it's more than that even. We're talking about creating cultural links. getting trade, Arcadians can actually have more Palestinian products, directly from Palestine. In our community, we can learn more about Palestinian culture. We can tear down barriers that are there, because even in left-wing spaces in our community, there's Islamophobia is very present, and so somehow people
If I,
think that there's this widespread misconception that Islam is more violent or aggressive somehow than Christianity, and the history just simply doesn't tell us that.
if bringing aid to starving women and children is divisive to our community, then there's something deeply wrong with our community. Okay? We're not talking about supporting a political agenda. We're talking about getting food to people, human beings who are starving and have been denied aid, right? Systematically been denied aid in defiance of international law. This is a battle we have to fight, and it doesn't matter which administration is in charge. The outcome is the same for Palestinians, and it's only getting worse.
Yeah, and as far as, can we get medical aid in when there's a blockade? Probably not very easily, probably not immediately, but we've been advised with our links with Boulder Nablas, for example. They said, look, if you guys can partner with already established NGOs that are working there currently, you can actually do this much faster of providing material support to, humanitarian support. So there's medical aid for Palestinians, for example. There's uh, the Palestinian Children's Relief Fund. These are groups that are working in Gaza today. And so, by Arcata City partnering with these groups, we can provide support today. And obviously, getting aid in would be a challenge. Medical aid for Palestinians, they have at any given time, they have a certain tonnage of medical aid on the border of Egypt and Gaza, but some of that gets in, not enough. And there's routine stoppages, but they have doctors working there who are in the north of Gaza. Um, we can support those doctors in the north of Gaza. And that can, I think that's the focus. But again, the sister city can be much more than just humanitarian aid. We're talking about cultural exchanges. We're talking about um, you know having artists exchange art, children exchange their experiences through different types of programs, pen pals. There's so many different things that we could imagine that could be set up through this program.
So, to we've only got a few minutes before round robin. What do you think the chances of this becoming a reality are for the city council to be persuaded and for people to vote in favor of a sister city, and then everybody taking the steps to have it happen? What chances are, and for those listening that do want to help, that maybe they're not sure about the sister city, but I think I can't imagine there's a person out there that thinks, gee, somebody deserves to die. Especially women and children, or starve, or to be tortured. I believe in humanity, and I wish others did too. Though, what happens if this does not occur? And what will you two do, the Redwood Peace and Justice Coalition? What will happen from there, and what can people do if they do want to help in Gaza right now, or people in Palestine overall?
Right now, your options are very limited. unfortunately. As I said, if aid does not flow through, giving money to people who supply aid does not help. What helps the most is putting political pressure to let the establishment know that we support upholding international law in compliance with the Leahy law and our own laws here in the United States. And we can't let Joe Biden still has time. He could fix this problem today. The Harris-Biden administration could fix it, or could at least put a temporary halt to the misery, the absolute immiseration and dehumanization of millions of people that have been displaced and killed and starved and forced to face conditions that are just categorically inhumane and are in defiance of international law.
Yeah, you asked, is it possible? Will we succeed? You know, I don't have a crystal ball as to the future, but I can tell you that a lot of people locally care about this issue. And this is a model where people can actually plug in. They can actually see that their actions, their thoughts, their concerns can make a difference. And so I think it's very likely that you know, as we continue, more and more people will care about this project of forming a sister city in Palestine, and you know, there's obviously, you know, real challenges ahead. The Trump administration is believed by many people to increase the hostility towards the domestic pro-Palestinian movement. I mean, that's nothing new, though. I mean, the Biden administration has taken very serious and disturbing actions already to suppress the local Palestinian pro-Palestinian movement. So, you know, I'm reminded of what this one woman who's works with the Medical Aid for Palestinians, MAP is the acronym. She said, "We need you to continue to fight for our freedom, for our basic rights. Your actions, your voices, and your belief in a just future is the lifeline that keeps us going. So please do not give up on us. Stand with us, speak out for us, and be the hope that we sometimes struggle to hold on to." So you see, there's actually many people who are, you know, in Palestine, in Gaza, who are calling on us, people in the international community, to act, to do something that actually makes a difference. And here we're trying to show that we can actually do things that do make a difference. So I would encourage people who want to get involved further, by all means, you're welcome to come to the Palestine Talking Corner. That's what we're calling it, every Saturday from 12 to 2 at the Arcata Plaza on the corner closest to Cafe Brio. That's every Saturday during the farmers market. And you know, that the idea of the Palestine Talking Corner again is, you know, that we need to talk in order to create collective action. And so come along, share your thoughts, help us to petition if you like, and also tell your city representatives that you would like to see a sister city in Palestine. You can write to them, you can call them, leave them a message if you don't get them, call them back if they don't call you back, you know, and let them know that this is something that concerns you.
So it is the last few minutes of the show. I want to give each of you about 3 minutes to let the listeners who are listening on KZH 96.7 FM live right now, or listening on the internet, or whether they're watching it on TV on channel 13 or on YouTube channels when it replays. What would you, channel 12, not 13, channel 12, what would you like them to take with them? You've got 3 minutes. Let's start with Dan.
Okay, I wanted to quickly address the LGBTQ rights comment that you made, and marriage equality in general. I just wanted to say that, like, it can be difficult for people to understand different cultures and the rules that they have, especially regarding marriage, for instance. Like in Israel, gay marriage is illegal. Not only is gay marriage illegal in Israel, did you know that it is illegal to have a mixed religious marriage in Israel? Did you know that, Tavi? And do you think that's
Yes, I am
okay?
aware. This is not about my own beliefs. I am asking questions. You've got
Okay, because
2
if we
minutes and
want to
30 seconds
put
left to
because if
go.
we want to put a focus on a culture and their marriage rights and their beliefs, then we want to shine the light broadly on both sides of the subject and let it be understood that there's deep problems in that entire region that go back a long time, but not as long as people think. People often say this conflict goes back thousands of years or hundreds of years, when in reality, it doesn't go back that far at all, and is only getting worse year by year, and now day by day in front of our eyes, due to support by our government and our tax dollars. So Donald J. Trump is the worst thing to happen to Palestinians since Joe Biden, right? Joe Biden was no friend to anybody related to peace, right? Joe Biden was a toady to Netanyahu, and that's what led us to the where we are right now, to the brink of war with Iran, because of cowardice and an inability, or an unwillingness rather, to uphold international law. You've heard me say that time and time again. Every time I speak, I talk about international law, because this is not about religion. This is not about Arabs or Muslims or Jews or anything else besides the racist policies of the state of Israel, and the fact that U.S. tax dollars are funding that in defiance of international and U.S. law. And
Okay. Sean, did, uh, did you? Oh, sorry. We have 3 minutes left to go, according to my producer. Sean, you've got your three minutes, 2 minutes and 45 seconds now.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, and I just wanted to thank you once again for having us on the show so that your viewers and listeners can find out about what we're up to. And as to your question about, what we want to leave people with, I mean, it's that your actions can make a difference. They do make a difference. We're told in the media that we don't matter in so many ways, that our actions don't matter. And the implication is just go back to work, you know, keep doing what you're doing and don't make waves. Don't participate in political activities. Simply, you know, be an autonomon, or whatever the word is, just, and actually, you know, there's a history of why we're told these things, but the fact is, it's a lie. And how important are we? That's always a question. Can we make a difference? That's always a question that we're faced as a human being. But I'm telling you, I'm a stand that you can make a difference, and you can be part of a solution for the Palestinian people. That by forming a sister city, we can actually potentially do as not the Bolden Nablas has done, provide an ambulance to Gaza, perhaps, Gaza City. I mean, we have local Palestinians who have family connections to Gaza City, and so we can potentially utilize those, as well as other connections with medical aid for Palestinians, and to actually get aid in, and also to create these cultural links to transform ourselves as we sort of transform the world, if you will, and make Arcata a place that we want to live in, a place where people want to move to because it seems like a good place to raise children in. You know, this is a great value. There's so many intersecting possibilities for people's participation in a sister city, and there's so many different ideas. So if you have, you know, listeners have ideas on what we can do with the sister city, bring those ideas forward, and let's create something that actually does make a difference.
Thank you so much to both of you. That is about all the time we have today. You've been listening to us talk about the potential of an Arcata Gaza sister city. We've had Dan Shaheen as well as Sean Leon, both members of the Redwood Peace and Justice Coalition, as well as some very active community members. I really appreciate you both being on the show. First step's always discussion. And that's, I think a lot of people had many questions about this. So I really appreciate you both taking the time to be on the show and to share the reasoning behind with the city. Thank you. We'll be back next week, another Thursday Night Talk. If you have topics or suggestions, or you want to comment on them, please email us at kzzh@accesshumboldt.net. Again, that's kzzh at. A reminder, the show replays Friday evening at 8 p.m. right here on KZZH 96.7 FM. You can also watch the show on Access Humboldt's YouTube channel. Look up Thursday Night Talk. We'll also be playing on Access Humboldt's broadband channel 12, as well as occasionally some of the other channels from Access Humboldt. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Talvi Fried, and I'll see you next week.